This video is brought to you by Sailrite. Make your own Adirondack chair cushions following the steps in this video. A good quality Adirondack cushion made from Sunbrella fabric can cost almost $100 from a retailer, and if you need more than one, it gets expensive quickly. Save money, learn more, and do it yourself using supplies from Sailrite. Let's get started. Angela from the Sailrite Loft is going to show us how it's done. The first task in making Adirondack chair cushions is to take a few measurements off the chair. The backrest does curve inwards in the center, but we will be cutting our foam to a squarish shape, so we will measure from the outside edge of the backrest to the forward edge of the chair. Write your measurements down on paper. Next, measure the opening at the front of the chair from inside arm to inside arm. For the backrest, measure at the center location up to the highest point of the chair. Ours is 29 inches. Finally, measure across the back of the backrest as shown in the video. Ours is 21 inches. Draw a rough sketch of the chair and write those measurements down on that paper. Angela is going to round the figures down slightly, but that is not required or recommended. For the foam, we will be using a compressed or densified polyester called new foam. This is a rather inexpensive option, and typically most Adirondack chair cushions are made from this type of foam. However, another option is an antimicrobial polyurethane foam from Sailrite. This polyurethane foam is what is commonly found in most of the furniture made around the world. Angela has marked the foam to size and will now cut out the two shapes, one the bottom and one the backrest. The compressed polyester is 2 inches thick and is best cut with scissors. It is nearly impossible to cut the whole thickness with scissors at once, so we will cut the top half, approximately 1 inch, then the bottom half. If you choose to use a polyurethane foam, it cuts easily with an electric kitchen knife. The foam should be tested in the chair to assure it fits. It should be rather snug, as the cushion cover will typically shrink the size of the foam slightly. Mark the backrest following the contour of the chair's back. That backrest foam is sitting on top of the seat bottom foam below. Then trim to size. Sailrite highly recommends using a Sunbrella Upholstery or furniture fabric for Adirondack chairs. Sunbrella fabric is one of the world's best outdoor/indoor fabric. For more information, check it out at www.sailrite.com. To calculate the length of fabric required, must be a 46-inch wide fabric or larger, just add the backrest height to the seat's bottom's depth, plus add 6 inches for extra fabric and the middle hinge. This fabric is 54 inches wide, so Angela has folded it in half to make both the top and bottom plate of our cushion. At that fold, she will cut it to size following the stripes of the fabric for a straight line. Now she can overlay the opposite half so the pattern repeat is the same for the top and bottom plate. After that is done, she will use straight pins and secure the two layers so the stripes are directly over each other. This is possible with this fabric, but may not be the case with other pattern repeats. Often cushions still look great even if the stripes are not matched up between top and bottom plates. It is a preference only, and not a rule. Pin the fabric at several locations along all four sides. Next, take the foam pieces and find the center and mark it with a marker. Lay the foam over top of the fabric assemblies so the center lines up with where you want the fabric's pattern to fall. Our stripes are so small on this fabric and thin that it's not too important, but for larger stripes or patterns, this may be more important. Angela will place the backrest foam on the fabric just for reference. She will not trace around that yet. Step 1. Trace around the seat bottom foam with a fabric marking pencil, chalk, or other light-colored pencil. The lines we are striking down will be on the inside of the cover, so erasing them will not be too important. She uses a yardstick to help press down on the foam as she marks the fabric underneath. Step 2. Strike a line 2 inches up from the seat bottom's edge. This wide straight edge is exactly 2 inches wide, so we will use that to mark up from the seat bottom. Step 3. Strike a line 1 inch up from the line you just struck down. This yardstick is about 1 inch wide. The 2 inches will be used for seam allowance and also for the boxing portion of the cushion that will wrap around the sides. The 1 inch will be used as a hinge between the two pieces of foam. Next, position the backrest foam so it rests along the line you just struck down. Be sure it is centered also. Step 4. Mark around the outer edges of the foam. Here, Angela is going to use a yardstick to help her in marking the straight sides. Step 5. Mark 1 inch around the outside edges of the backrest and the seat bottom. This illustration shows those lines fading in and out. To accomplish this task, use a ruler and place marks 1 inch around the outside of the lines that were struck down previously on the fabric. Then strike new lines with a straight edge. Remember, the lines you strike down will be on the inside of the cover when it's done. We cannot use a straight edge to trace around the backrest, so carefully trace around the upper backrest 1 inch away from the first line. Step 6. Connect the backrest to the seat bottom by carefully tracing a curved line. Nothing too fancy, just a natural curved line that is about the same shape on both sides of the cushion. Since we are using a Sunbrella Upholstery or furniture fabric, we can use a hot knife to cut the fabric to size. We are using Sailrite's Edge hot knife, which heats up in only a few seconds and cools down in a minute or two. Cutting with a hot knife will seal the edge of the fabric and keep it from unraveling. A hot knife typically cannot be used on natural fabrics like cotton, but any synthetic, it usually works great. Between the backrest and the seat bottom, a fabric tie will be installed to help keep the cushion on the chair. Also, midway up the backrest, a tie should be installed on both sides there as well. Angela is marking the fabric at those locations. It is also important to leave an opening along the side of the cushion to insert the foam in a later step. So she is also placing marks where she will start and stop sewing, leaving an opening just large enough to easily insert the foam when the cushion plates are sewn together and it's turned right side out. Where the fabric ties were marked, she drew a T indicating an exit point for fabric. Everywhere else, a dash line indicating start or stop sewing. Since the fabric has been hot knifed, when cut to size, the fabric will likely be slightly bonded together, melted. So where the opening for the foam was indicated, she will now open or separate the fabric at that opening spot on both the bottom and the seat back position. Also, where you are separating the plates, might as well separate the fabric where each fabric tie has to be installed. Keep the rest intact so it makes the sewing of the plates easier in the next step. If you did not use a hot knife to cut the fabric, you will likely have to pin the plates together so they are directly on top of each other when sewing in the next step. Before sewing the plates together, we need to make the fabric ties. We're going to use an acrylic soft braid binding to do this. However, you could use some of the scrap fabric and make your own. Our fabric ties are cut to approximately 24 inches and knots are tied on the two ends. Find the center of the tie and insert that folded over center into the cushion so the fold just protrudes out of the cushion cover. Do that for all the fabric tie locations. The tie that goes where the cushion opening is on the backrest will not be installed until the cushion is closed up, so skip that tie for now. Next, sew up the cushion cover starting at one of the start marks. We are using a V69 polyester thread with a size number 16 needle. The Sailrite Ultrafeed LS1 sewing machine with a walking foot is doing our sewing. We will sew a straight stitch about a ½ inch away from the raw edges of the fabric. Try to keep the stitch length about 6 millimeters in length to reduce the puckering of the fabric. A good practice when you reach a corner is to bury the needle in the fabric so it's at its lowest position down. Then lift the presser foot and rotate the fabric, lower the presser foot, and continue to sew. Do not forget to leave the opening for the insertion of the foam. You can see those spots via the marks you made earlier. Do not sew those areas closed. Now we can turn the assembly right side out via one of the openings. Next, take a measurement of the seat back's foam length. Ours is 29 inches. Remember earlier we added 1 inch along all edges of the cover. So add 2 inches to this measurement for a total of 31 inches for our cushion cover. Next, measure the seat's depth. Ours is 17 inches, and add 2 inches for a total of 19 inches. Some of you are thinking, what about seam allowance? That was about 3/8 inch when we sewed the two plates together. Yes, you are correct, but we are just trying to find the approximate location where the hinge seams will be placed. These two measurements should be very close to one another, if not on top of each other. Take the average of both and find the center. From that location, mark a ½ inch away on both sides as shown in the video. At those two locations, we will strike a light line with a pencil, soapstone pencil, or chalk, and then sew directly on top of the lines, creating a nice pocket for the foam and a hinge all at the same time. These two lines are 1 inch apart from each other. Insert the foam into each opening in the cushion. You can expect the foam to be slightly larger than the cover for a nice tight fit. So it's also necessary to push the foam into the corners so it lays centered in the cover and it's also nice and flat. The final step is to sew close the opening. To do this, create a small hem on both open edges of the cover fabric and then sandwich the plates on top of each other so they look good. Then sew along the edge, remembering to reverse the beginning and the end of your sewing to lock the stitch in place. Keep the stitch close to the hem edge for the best appearance. We are trying to conceal the stitch to the best of our ability. A helpful hint for beginners is to pin the fabric together prior to sewing to hold it in place while you sew. Notice that Angela sews a few inches, then stops and rotates the sewing machine's balance wheel by hand so she can bury the needle in the fabric before she will continue to make the hem along these two edges. In doing this, the assembly will not move and her stitch is consistent. Let's move on. For the backrest, the procedure is the same, except that we need to include a fabric tie at the spot we marked on the fabric. After the foam is inserted, find the location for the fabric tie, which should be opposite the tie on the other side. Here is the mark we made earlier. Transfer that mark to the other side so we can see it more easily when we sew the opening closed. We do not want to forget to install the tie. Now sew the opening closed as you did previously. When you come to the place where the mark is, insert the tie and continue sewing it closed. The Adirondack cushion is now complete and ready to be tied onto the chair. Coming up next is the materials list and tools we use to make this cushion. In general, it takes 2 yards of fabric and a sheet of foam, which is about 26 inches by 51 inches, to make one Adirondack cushion. For more free videos like this, be sure to check out the Sailrite website or subscribe to the Sailrite YouTube channel. It's your loyal patronage to Sailrite that makes these free videos available. Thanks for your loyal support. I'm Eric Grant, and from all of us here at Sailrite, thanks for watching.